Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of E.W. Jackson for America. Great to be with you again today. Hope you enjoyed yesterday's program. I'm getting into, as we teach on the book of Revelation at my church, I'm really getting into some very, very important information about what's going to unfold during the Great Tribulation. And I think you will find it very insightful. I hope you had a chance to watch the program yesterday. And you can order the sermons that I'm preaching. You can order those by going to, by going to bishopewjackson.tv, bishopewjackson.tv. And just put, if you're interested in the book of Revelation, I don't know whether the catalog is on the website yet, but it will be soon. But if you just put the book of Revelation, somebody will get back to you and let you know, because I'm in volume 4 right now. Just finished up chapter 9 yesterday, and we're going to be going into chapter 10, finishing up chapter 9 and going into chapter 10, I believe, in the next set of messages. Of course, in a week, I'm going to be breaking away to deal with Palm Sunday and Resurrection Sunday, so we'll take a little break away from the book of Revelation for that period and then go right back to it after Resurrection Sunday. I'll tell you, this teaching on the book of Revelation, something that the Lord had not released me to do for many, many years and finally has released me to do it. I'm just being mightily blessed from it. I can't begin to tell you what it's doing, because I'm already committed to prophetic ministry. I believe that's the anointing that God has on my life, a ministry to speak to the nation. But the book of Revelation has even made that more intense and more compelling. One of the things I got into, for example, on Sunday, is the idea that part of what's going to happen during the Great Tribulation is that nature will turn on itself. Like a cancer, it will begin to eat away at itself. And the things that will happen, although they will have a supernatural compulsion behind them, they will be natural in their occurrences. Just like God bringing the children of Israel out of Egypt. Everything that happened was natural in its occurrence, but was supernatural in its compulsion. In other words, frogs were natural, but not that many frogs. Lice were natural, but not that many lice. Of course, it's natural that it gets dark when the sun goes down, but not darkness for long periods of time and so forth. So everything that happened, disease, was natural. Now, the water turning to blood, some people argue that that had a natural element as well. But all of it had supernatural power behind it. But the things that happened were things in the natural world that affected people's ability to live. So when the water turned to blood, of course, you couldn't drink it. So, and I get into some of the theories behind what that really means. Is water actually turning to actual physical blood, or is the water turning blood red as a result of other things that are going on behind the scenes there? But at any rate, it's very, very fascinating. So I hope that you will get it. The book of Revelation, I'm in volume 4 right now. I'm going to teach the entire book. I'm a little bit past the 1/3 mark, but I will probably be finishing it up sometime mid this year. And we'll make that entire series available to everybody once it's done. Okay, I want to remind you that on this coming Saturday, I will be at the Black Conservative Summit in Chicago, Illinois. If you are in the area, come by, and please don't be intimidated by the name. It is open to all. Anybody who wants to come is welcome to come, but there will be conservatives, black conservatives from around the country who will be gathered there to talk about how we address, I think this is one of the issues we'll be talking about. I think it will be the predominant issue, certainly predominant in my mind, how we address the captivity that the Democrat Party and the left has over the black community. And it is a kind of captivity. It is a kind of psychological slavery. And I'm not backing off from that term. It is a kind of psychological slavery where people are in bondage, where you have even Christians who the Democrat Party has become the party of Antichrist. Christians voting for the Democrat Party because they think that somehow the Democrat Party is going to provide social or racial justice for black folks. And it hasn't done that ever, ever. The Democrat Party was responsible for slavery. The Democrat Party was responsible for Jim Crow. The Democrat Party was responsible for resegregating work in the federal government after Lincoln and Ulysses S. Grant had begun to well, I shouldn't say Lincoln, but Ulysses S. Grant at least, and others had undone all that during Reconstruction, moved toward integration, and along comes Wilson and completely flips things around and resegregates the federal government, extols the virtues of the Ku Klux Klan. That's all the Democrat Party, folks. That's all the Democrat Party. And I know people only remember Roosevelt and Truman, and then, of course, Johnson and Kennedy primarily. But those are really just, frankly, those are anomalies. And even we know now, historically, that even what Lyndon Johnson did, his Great Society program, was really intended to captivate the black vote. It was not intended to help black people, and it didn't. It decimated the black family. It calcified poverty in the black community. Education has continued to decline. Crime and safety has continued. Crime has continued to get worse. Public safety has continued to get worse. So it has not, you can't point to it and say, oh, wow, what a great thing this was for the black community. It wasn't. It wasn't. A different vision is required. And so I'm sure that'll be one of the issues we'll be discussing. I'll be closing it out on Saturday afternoon. I'll be speaking, I believe I'm giving the concluding speech on Saturday afternoon. It's going to be at the Tinley Park Convention Center at 18451 Convention Center Drive in Tinley Park, Illinois. So if you're in the area or you just want to be there and you've got the ability, come on out. I'd love to meet you. I will be signing books there, and we'll have a great time. And I'm sure that the Lord will use it to advance the cause of saving America, because, folks, that is my preeminent concern right now, saving this country. And I believe releasing the black community from the clutches of these demonic Democrats is part of that, and from the clutches of the left. And that doesn't mean the Republican Party is somehow the answer or somehow a messianic party. It is not. As I've said many times before, the issue is not party but principle. The issue is not race but righteousness. It's not the skin, it's the sin. And we've got to address the principles and the ideals that God has given us that make for a successful nation, a successful city, a successful community, a successful family, and a successful individual. Now, I deal with all of this in my book, Sweet Land of Liberty, Reflections of a Patriot Descended from Slaves. It's a 365-page book, folks. It is substantive, and I hope that you will get it. It's available wherever books are sold. You can get it at Books A Million, at Barnes & Noble, at Amazon. I'm told that because, of course, the nature of the book, you got to really kind of search for it in Amazon. It doesn't pop right up, obviously, because, you know, it is what it is. These people they're censors, and they are leftists who are interested in trying to suppress any viewpoints that does not agree with their own. But at any rate, it's available. If you want to get it at a 15% discount, you can go to my publisher. The website is faithfultext.com. Faithfultext.com, just like it sounds. And you'll get it for a 15% discount. Now, I'll send you a free signed copy of my book if you sign up as a Patriot Partner at $25 a month or more, or you sign up for an annual gift of $300 or more. I will send you a signed, numbered copy of the book. And I am signing these personally. In fact, I've got books on, I've got my, I can't keep enough books, frankly, um, in my home or in my studio. They're going fast, and I mean that. And I'm grateful to God and grateful to you for that. So I'm waiting for a new supply of the author's stash to come to me so that I can begin to sign more books. But if you've signed up as a Patriot Partner, your books are either on the way or they will be. We are very meticulous about this, and it's on a first come, first served basis. The number of book you get is going to be based on when you sign up as a Patriot Partner. And I believe that I'm into the 60s, just beginning to hit the 60s now, since I started this process about a month ago. So thank you so much for your support. Sweet Land of Liberty, Reflections of a Patriot Descended from Slaves. I really believe it answers all this critical race theory nonsense, the 1619 Project, all that garbage. Okay, here's what I'm going to talk to you about today. And it's a very, very important subject. You all know that former President Donald Trump said that today he would be indicted by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. It looks like it may be a week or so off, but right now it does appear that Alvin Bragg is going to end up indicting President Trump for what amounts to a misdemeanor. Some cockamamie nonsense about money he paid to Stormy Daniels. There's nothing illegal about it. It was all handled by attorneys. And at best, they say he's looking to try to find some kind of misdemeanor hidden in that. But he's just looking for a way to indict the president. So let me address several aspects of this. First of all, this is historically unprecedented. And by the way, just so you know, full disclaimer, I'm not supporting anybody yet. I haven't made up my mind. That's just where I am. I haven't made up my mind. I'm not going to run. So I'm not supporting anybody yet. But I will say this. This effort to destroy a human being because they don't like his views on the issues, again, once again, folks, it is civilizational suicide to do that. You know, this is what's so different, why we're going to defeat the left. Because their whole raison d'etre, their whole mindset is rooted and grounded in wickedness, in evil. Jesus said the thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And that's their raison d'etre. That's the way they work. You think about their policies. Open borders. Let criminals back out on the streets. Don't punish people for large amounts of shoplifting, up to excuse me, up to $1,000. Don't punish them for it. Aborting babies. Trying to matriculate young children into homosexuality, gender confusion, drag queen behavior, and all of this. Jesus said the thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. I mean, so think about it. Stealing people's lives, stealing people's property, killing unborn babies, seeing people murdered in the streets of our cities, destroying the innocence of children, destroying people's reputations who won't go along with this madness. It's demonic. It really is. It's demonic. That's why I've said that the Democrat Party is now the party of the Antichrist. Now, a number of presidential candidates have weighed in on this, but in my view, none of them has said what really needs to be said. And I'm not interested in getting into this. I know the Trump people attacked DeSantis because he didn't quite say what they wanted him to say. You know, folks, I'm motivated by one thing, and it is not dedication to Donald Trump or Rick DeSantis or anybody else, including me. I am interested in saving this country. That's what drives me. That's what motivates me. And the reason why I supported Donald Trump is that I felt that at that time he was the best person to help do that. And he may be again, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But that's what drove me. It's not him as a personality, not always happy with the things he said, but oh my goodness, it just immensely encouraged by the things that he did, the policies that he stood for, and his efforts to try to bring this nation back to a sense of sanity, domestically and internationally. Now, with regard to this prosecution, however, this is about something much, much bigger than Trump, much, much bigger than DeSantis' reaction or what any presidential candidate has to say about it. Now, please, folks, listen to me well, because I don't think there's any more important topic that I could address than what I'm about to say right now. If you've listened to me for a while, you've heard me say there are two things that must remain inviolate. Two things that must maintain the confidence of the American people. They must, in order for us to secure America's future, in order for us to have a future. They are, number one, we must maintain the integrity of our voting system. We must. Now, which is why I am, again, I mean, frankly, disgusted, but in a sense, I am perplexed by the fact that Democrats don't seem to understand that you can't dismiss the questions of half the population about the integrity of our voting system as if it means nothing. You can't. Because if half, or a majority even, of the American people become convinced that the voting system doesn't work, that it does not produce the will of the American people, that it is hopelessly corrupt, that either Democrats or Republicans or whoever, but right now we know it's Democrats, have basically polluted the system so much that you can no longer rely on its outcome. You realize what that means? I'll tell you what it inevitably means, folks. It inevitably means war in the streets. Because when a country's electoral system breaks down, even after the results are in, what tends to happen? People tend to go to war over who is actually going to lead. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen it would happen in the next election, but if that persists over time, and the erosion persists over time, I think you could end up having a critical mass of people who say, you know what, forget about it. The election doesn't matter. We just might as well just go ahead and shoot it out. And we haven't shot it out, thank God, and I don't want us to shoot it out, because we've all, Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, liberals, have had confidence that when the election is over, the results can be accepted by all. I've said before, I would rather lose, and I've lost some elections, obviously, haven't won any. Won the nomination for Republican Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. So I did win one, I guess you could say. But I haven't won a general election. I would rather lose than cheat or do anything to undermine the integrity of our system, because what I love more than winning for me is America winning. And I know that if the system cannot produce an outcome that we can all accept, even if we don't like it, the alternatives are frightening. So that's number one. And number two, if the majority of the American people ever become convinced that the criminal justice system does not produce justice, but rather is a system that is intended to advance the agenda of a particular party. So in other words, if you get charged with a crime, you will not get a fair trial unless you are part of the party. You will automatically be found guilty. In fact, you will automatically be prosecuted where somebody with a different political perspective would not, so that the FBI comes after you with all guns blazing, or the police are coming after you with all guns blazing, because they don't like where you stand on the issues. Not because you've actually done anything wrong, but because they found out that you are not one of them. This is the way communist countries operate. It's not the way a constitutional republic is supposed to operate. But if we ever come to a point where that's the way America operates, guess what happens eventually? I mean, here again, I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, next year, even within the 5 years, next 5 years. I don't know. But at some point, you could have a critical mass of people who say, you're not arresting me. We're not accepting that, because we know that that system is not about justice. If it were, I would submit myself to it. It's not. It's about the agenda of a demonic Democrat Party. It's about the agenda of particular leaders. It's about the agenda of George Soros. And George Soros is not putting me in jail. And guess what the alternative is? To shoot it out. Now, let me say quite clearly and without any equivocation whatsoever, so that no one is left wondering, I do not want us shooting it out. I love this country, and that's what I don't want. That's why I said I would rather lose than violate the integrity of our voting system. But when you have George Soros spending millions of dollars to finance corrupt, ideologically driven prosecutors who could care nothing about the actual justice of enforcing the law, but care only about enforcing their far left agenda on everyone, to the detriment of the average citizen who is now beset and preyed on by criminals allowed to walk the street because they're no longer being put in prison, because these prosecutors fundamentally don't believe in prison. They're Marxists, and they don't believe in prison. So from that to the idea that you would trump up charges against someone because you don't like their positions on the issues and you're looking for a way to prosecute them, a way to put that person in jail, not because they belong in jail, not because they're a threat or danger to their fellow citizens, but because you don't like them and you don't like the positions that they hold. These, to me, are two linchpins of civilization. And if you pull both of those out, the whole thing ultimately collapses. Now, there are other important aspects to our society, of course, but I've said these things are absolutely critical. I mean, we're seeing erosion in so many of our institutions, but those can all, in my view, be reclaimed without violence. But when you're talking about putting people in jail and taking away their freedom, not because they've done something wrong or broken the law, but because you don't like their ideology or you don't like their agenda, well, people feel they are right in fighting for their freedom. Now, you all have heard me say you respect the police, you submit to the police, you comply with the police, and that's what I believe with all my heart. But I'm talking about a situation in which all of that breaks down in the minds of the American people and they no longer trust the system. It simply is not a system of justice anymore. It is a system of ideological agenda enforcement, like what the Communist Party is. Communist Party, like in China, you get arrested because you are not adhering to, voicing, behaving in a way that the Communist Party of China thinks you should. Not because you killed anybody, robbed anybody, cheated anybody, did anything wrong. You are simply not espousing revolutionary principles, and therefore you need to be arrested and put someplace where you can be retaught and, if necessary, tortured and ultimately killed. Now, I know we're not at that point, but you look at the way the January 6th protesters and prisoners have been treated, and you wonder how far are we from that? Because if they had been leftists out protesting for Black Lives Matter, you know they probably wouldn't even have been put in jail. Burning up federal buildings, destroying property, looting, breaking windows, storming City Hall, any of that. You know, they probably wouldn't even have been put in jail. But not because of what the January 6th protesters and the rioters, even the people who broke the law. See, they're not being prosecuted for what they did. They're being prosecuted for where they stand. And folks, that is a very, very dangerous thing to do. And you've heard me say this, and I mean this with every fiber of my being because I love this country. E.W. Jackson for America. If I were president of the United States, I would have a talk with my attorney general and tell him, now look, I want to make sure that the United States Justice Department is impeccable and above reproach. I don't want us going after leftists or Democrats because we don't like them or because we're looking to put them, examine them with a microscope and a pair of tweezers, hoping we can find something that will allow us to put them in the jail. We put them in jail. We don't conduct ourselves that way. They are American citizens. They will be treated the same way no matter what their ideology is. If they break the law, they will be prosecuted according to the law. And if they don't, if they haven't done anything wrong, I don't care if they're yelling to high heaven that President Jackson is a nutcase and a crazy man and you know, we ought to run him out of town on the rail. I don't care what they're saying, as long as they're not obviously breaking the law and making threats. I don't care what they're saying. The Justice Department should leave them alone. Likewise, if they're parents protesting what their children are being taught in schools, the Justice Department should leave them alone. These are not criminals who deserve to be prosecuted or investigated as if they've done something wrong because we don't like what they stand for. I'll not have it because it ultimately undermines the integrity of our constitutional republic. And so I'll tell you something. Liberals would be safer under a Jackson presidency than they might be under some liberals. Because I would guard jealously their right to hold views that I find abhorrent. Because if we don't do that, then sooner or later, as we've seen, someone comes along who wants to prosecute us because they don't like our viewpoint. That's what Alvin Bragg represents. He represents the worst degeneration that can happen in our country. Kim Foxx, a bunch of them. And frankly, folks, if anybody ought to be put in jail, if anybody ought to be investigated, it probably is George Soros. Because this man is a societal menace. He really is. He really is. And here again, I wouldn't put him in jail if he's not breaking any laws. But I'll tell you one thing. This man is undermining the integrity of our constitutional republic as far as I am concerned. He is a traitor to the United States of America. And I would take a very, very hard look at him. And you know, by the way, I don't have time to get into it. But I think we better take a look at how we choose prosecutors too, because the fact that a George Soros can take $1 million, $2 million, $3 million and buy a prosecutor, to me, is a major problem. It's a flaw in our system. Maybe we need to stop electing prosecutors. Maybe prosecutors need to take an oath that they will never use their authority as a prosecutor to prosecute anyone on the basis of their ideological perspective. Now, I don't know. Those are just two thoughts that come to mind in terms of how to deal with this. But we got to deal with it. We can't have people like Bragg running around using the office as some sort of political tool and weapon, because that's not what it's there for. And in the meantime, letting all these criminals go to terrorize the people of New York. So this is about something bigger than any presidential candidate. This is about the integrity of our criminal justice system, which to me is absolutely essential to the stability of our society. That's the issue that every presidential candidate needs to be talking about. And talking about putting scrutiny on a George Soros who is working overtime to undermine that stability. Well, that's going to do it for today. Food for thought, something for you to think about. Don't take your eye off the ball. It's not about a personality, it's about principles. It's not about race, it's about righteousness. It's not about skin, it's about sin. And what we need are leaders, not just at the presidential level, but at every level. We need leaders who love this country more than they love themselves and are willing to do what is right for the future and stability of the United States of America. We need to secure America's future for our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, for our posterity. I hope that that's what the next presidential election is really all about, and the congressional election for U.S. Senate and House, and then elections all over the country. I hope that that's what they ultimately become about: securing America's future, stabilizing American society, which to me means restoring America's Judeo-Christian values and principles to the central place in our culture. God bless each and every one of you. I will be back with you again today at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for American Family Radio's The Awakening. And I will be back with you again tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, for more of E.W. Jackson for America. In the meantime, you stand up, you step up, you speak up, you refuse to back up, because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit, because we are on God's side.